Hello and welcome. Admittedly, I'm still playing catch-up. Actually not up to date on all of New Trek. When I get there, I'll be doing individual overviews of the presently finished series, but I am current with Strange New Worlds, and since it is still ongoing, it is also fair game for speculation, spoilers, and suggestions. The disclaimer was right there, so let's hit it. I also have planned a separate video later analyzing the entire franchise's reliance on the Great Old Ones trope. Species so ancient or alien that they've evolved to godlike status, in some cases literally. The Preservers, the Olympians, the Organians, the Prophets, the Dode, the Q Continuum, the Prisoner of Shakari and its captors, and the Metrons. Yeah, those guys. Got to talk about them in particular here. I have to expect that the Metrons are going to have a significant, if not spectacular, role in the series by the finale. And possibly farther into the future, but we'll get to that. I mean, look, the Metrons were first introduced way back in the original series episode Arena, along with the Gorn. This will be important earlier, both. The next time we as the audience see the Metrons, again with the Gorn, it's in the Strange New Worlds episode Terrarium. This is decades later for us, but in story it takes place about 3 to 5 years prior to Arena. Now, this is not the first reappearance of the Gorn by any stretch. They're mentioned in the first episode of this series and are integral to the backstory of a regular crew member. Subsequently, the Gorn arc carries through and underlies the series right through the third season finale, with most of the regular and recurring characters impacted directly or indirectly and often repeatedly. One of those recurring characters is James T. Kirk, lieutenant now, but soon to be captain, which he will be when the events of Arena occur. The problem, in Arena, Kirk is told by the Metrons that the alien they have stranded him with to fight to the death is a Gorn. And he apparently has no knowledge of the name or species beyond that. This ignorance, contemporarily, made sense. But in light of the Strange New Worlds storyline currently, it's inexplicable. In Strange New Worlds, as mentioned, Kirk is a recurring character. However, every regular character has first-hand, frequently traumatic experience with the Gorn. These Starfleet officers include a near-miss love interest, his older brother, Sam, Uhura, Scotty, and Spock, with whom Kirk has shared a mind meld. That problem actually expands there. In Arena, the Metrons eventually allow the Enterprise crew to view the climax of the duel between captains. Uhura, Scotty, and Spock all see the Gorn and react with surprise, shock, and terror, but not recognition. Granted, the vintage design and characterization of the Arena Gorn is undeniably different from the state-of-the-art CGI effects creation shown in Strange New Worlds. But while that may or may not be an actual plot point to be addressed in the future, Strange New Worlds shows the Gorn as a widely known threat to the Federation, so Kirk should at least remember the word. Okay, we're finally at speculation time, but it still requires a little bit more recap. In the climax of Terrarium, the Metrons erase their existence from Lieutenant Ortega's memory. My speculation is that events in the series finale will lead to a tipping point which the Metrons feel compelled to control, if not resolve. The Metrons will reset the situation by erasing all memory of their existence and of each other from the components and then separating the combatant fleets to points within their own respective spatial territories. This much has already been shown to be within the Metron's capabilities, so I'm not even reaching on this one. In fact, this Deus Ex Machina plot spackle is really the only way I can see for the original series lore to jibe with the newer prequel show's continuity. What effect this radical reversal of history will have on Gorn farm survivor Lan Noonien Singh, I honestly can't even begin to speculate. The Metrons do fall into that great old ones category, but I doubt even they would be able to resurrect her entire family. An entire other catastrophic reason for the loss of so many Federation's citizens would have to be constructed. Presumably, the specifics of Gorn involvement would just be deleted from the memory of Marie Batel's fate. Circling back to the prequels continuity, Strange New Worlds was spun from a unique logistical move by the higher-ups on the original series. It took 3 pilots to gel and sell to the network. The second had been close enough to the final version that it was just scheduled as a regular first-season episode. The original pilot was significantly different, especially in cast and character, so it was simply shelved. However, the difficulties in getting the series picked up led to a shortage of enough scripts to shoot a full first season. As a stopgap, producer Robert Justman talked series creator Gene Roddenberry into writing a 2-part story using footage from that first pilot as flashbacks. Thanks to this bit of production sleight of hand, fans were introduced to the crew of the USS Enterprise during its previous 5-year mission. And finally, 5.5 decades later, we got a series featuring that crew and mission. Well, mostly. See, in Strange New Worlds timeline, the incidents shown in that pilot story have already occurred an undisclosed number of years before the series begins. As I said, fans like myself had been introduced to an earlier Enterprise crew all those years ago. And while I'm extremely happy with the crew and cast we've been treated to in the show's present, I really would like to see some of the characters from that original story. Or at least find out what happened to them in the interim. I gotta admit, I am firmly entrenched in the camp that's lobbying to see Dr. Philip Boyce played by multi-Trek veteran Jeffrey Combs. I also think it would be sweet if Lieutenant Jose Tyler and Yeoman J.M. Colt had ended up together. But maybe that's just me. Okay, that's enough preemptively nostalgic shipping. That farther future return of the Metrons I hinted at. Well, at the end of Arena, the Metron representative suggests to Kirk that perhaps in several thousand years, humans might evolve to a level the Metrons find tolerable, at which point they might meet again. When Kirk later vaguely mentions this to Spock, he rounds the time frame down considerably to 1,000 years or so. That specific figure almost certainly wasn't something the creatives took note of at the time, despite the occasional but hardly rare uses of time travel in the OG series. However, jumping to the future in real life, the franchise has done just that in story. The last 3 seasons of Discovery, and following from that, the upcoming Starfleet Academy series, all take place more than 900 years after the original series. A lot closer to the Metron's "don't call us, we'll call you" deadline than the original team would ever have expected the overarching story to reach. But with the concurrent series having reintroduced the Metrons, that quantum leap seems unlikely to be a coincidence. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, who do you think would have been the best partner for Chris Pike if he had had to stay in the Telosian's immersive reality show? Or if you're in a hurry, just a like and or subscribe would be just as appreciated. Thanks for your time. Stop back again. Live long and prosper.